The text blinked on my phone, cruel and precise. "You're not invited to my wedding. My husband thinks you'd ruin the vibe." I stared at it. No emojis. No explanation. Just pure distilled betrayal. I set the phone down and exhaled, slow and even, like I'd done 1,000 times before. "My name is Olivia Harper. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been erased by someone who swore they loved you?" The world around me continued as if nothing happened. The coffee shop smelled like burnt espresso in late mornings. People laughed, tapped their laptops and scrolled endlessly on social media. But I was frozen. Not in anger. Not yet. In calculation. I remembered the invitations, the rehearsed smiles, the Instagram photos my sister shared of gowns, flowers and luxury. I wasn't invited, because I wasn't meant to witness the life she thought she could live without me. I looked down at my own reflection in the window. The girl in the glass didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She smiled faintly, almost imperceptibly. She had plans. Big ones. The next day, the gala at my company began like any other. The chandeliers glittering, the champagne flowing, the elite of the city brushing shoulders under soft, golden light. Guests whispered, cameras clicked, and the air smelled of expensive perfume and ambition. Then he walked in. Her fiancé. I didn't approach him. I let the room do its work. Let the whispers carry him. Let the recognition sink in slowly like ice melting on skin. His eyes found me, sharp, questioning, confused. He took a step back. Then another. His mouth opened but no words came. He realized finally who I was. Not just Olivia Harper, sister of the bride. Not just the girl in the shadow of a perfect wedding Instagram feed. I was the woman who built a company from nothing. I was the woman whose gala now hosted the entire city elite. I was the woman whose influence stretched into the pockets and plans of everyone he thought he controlled. The shock on his face was delicious. It wasn't anger yet, not fully. It was recognition. The kind that unravels every assumption, every tiny lie you've built your life upon. He screamed. Not at me. Not directly. At the truth. Because in that moment the illusion shattered. The sister he was about to marry thought she could hide her jealousy. But he had no idea how real power looked, or who held it. And I stood there calm, poised, untouchable. Not in malice, not in vengeance. But in inevitability. The night stretched on, glittering and chaotic, but one fact remained. I was no longer invisible. And the first cracks in her perfect wedding fantasy had already begun. The screaming had stopped. But the tension didn't. It lingered in the chandelier's glow, in the way the waitstaff avoided eye contact, in the subtle gasps of guests who realized something had shifted. Her fiancé, David, stood frozen in the middle of my gala, suit slightly rumpled, hands shaking. He wasn't mad at me. He was stunned. I smiled faintly, letting the moment settle. Not triumphantly. Not cruelly. Just deliberately. "You're Olivia Harper?" he finally asked, voice low, almost trembling. "Yes," I said softly. "My company, my event, my city tonight. Welcome." He blinked. He realized, with horror dawning in his eyes, that the sister he believed ran the show at this wedding had been running blind while I had been running everything else. My phone buzzed quietly in my clutch. A message from a board member. "The gala is exceeding expectations. Investors are impressed." I didn't reply. Some victories didn't need applause. They needed silence to burn slowly in the minds of others. My sister approached then, in her pristine white gown, heels clicking on the polished floor. "Olivia, what are you doing here?" Her voice was a mixture of irritation and fear, the kind you get when your carefully constructed world starts to crumble. "I'm here for the gala," I said simply. "And apparently, to watch the show." Her eyes flicked to David, who looked between us like a man trapped in a dream he didn't want to wake from. "I invited everyone important," she said, tone shaking. I didn't think you'd. Think I'd show up?" I interrupted, calm, cutting her off. "Maybe. But I also didn't think you'd try to erase me completely." She gasped, flustered, lips trembling. "I didn't erase you." "You did," I said. "And yet somehow here I am. Standing in the room you wanted to own. Wearing the presence you wanted to control. Watching the people you wish you had influence over notice me instead of you. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. But no words came. David, still pale, finally found his voice. I had no idea. Yes, you did, I said softly. You just didn't look closely. You just didn't ask the right questions. I could feel the room noticing now, subtle glances, whispered murmurs. Guests recognizing that the woman everyone assumed was secondary was, in fact, the one wielding the power tonight. My sister's hands shook as she fumbled for a drink. I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind, trying to rewrite reality. But reality has a habit of refusing rewrites. David's face had gone pale as linen. He realized she had lied about me. Not to protect him. To protect herself. And in that moment I understood the intoxicating truth about life and power. It isn't the people who shout the loudest who hold control. It's the ones who quietly build it, while everyone else is busy pretending. The night stretched on, a blur of laughter, lights, and hushed awe. And in the center of it all I stood, calm, untouchable, undeniable. Her perfect wedding fantasy had a new reality. And David had just realized who the woman in his fiancé's shadow really was. By the end of the night, the room still glittered with chandeliers and whispered compliments, but the air had changed. Guests weren't talking about the food or the decor anymore. They were talking about me. Her fiancé, David, kept glancing my way, disbelief written across his face. I caught him staring once and I smiled faintly, subtle, controlled. No words were necessary. The truth had already spoken louder than any introduction or toast. My sister tried to regain control. She tugged at her gown, flustered, and whispered harshly, "Olivia, this isn't the time." I interrupted. "No, it's exactly the time. You invited everyone here to celebrate you. I'm here to celebrate me." Her face went pale. Not because I had insulted her, but because she realized I wasn't bluffing. I hadn't come to compete. I had come to reveal. David stepped forward, voice tight. I don't understand. How did you get all of this?" "By working," I said simply. "By building something real while everyone else was busy pretending. By taking what I was given and turning it into something bigger than any wedding could ever showcase." His eyes widened as he finally connected the dots. "Oh my God, she's the Olivia Harper my fiancé told me about. The one she always tried to hide." I let the words hang in the air, letting the room feel the weight. Whispers grew. Guests nudged each other, murmuring under their breath. The bride, my sister, was suddenly invisible. Not because I had taken her spotlight, because she had never had it to begin with. She stepped toward me, desperation leaking from every pore. "You can't do this. This is my day. My wedding." I tilted my head. "My sister, your wedding isn't about me. But pretending I don't exist? That's always been about you." David swallowed hard, voice shaking. I would have never agreed to this if I knew. She's amazing. Powerful. Incredible. And His words stumbled to a stop as he realized his fiancée had been hiding the truth for years. He looked at me, not at her. And suddenly the roles were clear. I was the revelation. I was the one holding the mirror to all their lies. The room was quiet now. No applause. No laughter. Just the sharp sting of recognition. My sister's eyes burned with fury and fear. Not because I had won, but because she had lost control, and she had never known that control was never truly hers to begin with. I reached for a glass of champagne and raised it just slightly, letting the room catch the subtle message. Power isn't loud. It isn't inherited. It isn't given. It's claimed. David's face softened. You're incredible," he whispered. "Why didn't anyone ever tell me?" I smiled faintly, letting the sting of truth linger. "Because you weren't listening. And because she didn't want you to know who I really was." For the first time that night I felt it. The intoxicating clarity of victory, quiet and undeniable. And my sister. The night ended, but the ripples of truth didn't. As the last guests departed, the chandeliers dimmed and silence fell over the ballroom. A silence heavy with realization. I stood near the grand staircase, letting the echoes of murmurs and clinking glasses wash over me. Her perfect wedding night was over, but the perfect illusion? Shattered. David lingered by my side, hesitant. I need to talk to you, he said, voice tight. Can we, outside? I followed him through the back exit into the cool night air. The city lights glittered like distant promises, but tonight they felt like mine. I let the night settle over us before speaking. You need to know, I said softly, I never intended to overshadow your wedding. But I also never intended to be invisible. He nodded slowly, realization dawning. You weren't invisible. You were incredible. I had no idea. I smiled faintly. Exactly. He glanced toward the hotel ballroom, toward my sister, whose posture was rigid and jaw tight. She lied, he said quietly. She made it seem like you didn't matter. But you do. Way more than I ever imagined. I let the words linger. Not to boast. Not to manipulate. Just as truth. Inside, my sister watched from a distance, fury simmering. Her world, carefully constructed over years of whispers and half-truths, was now exposed. Her fiancé had seen me. The guests had seen me. And the subtle but undeniable respect, the quiet power I carried, it couldn't be erased. David's hand hovered near mine, hesitant, uncertain. I don't know how to apologize for what she told me, he said. You've outshone everything, Olivia. And I never want to ignore that again. I let him feel the weight of my calm. I'm not here for apologies. I'm here to exist, fully, unapologetically. If that threatens her, that's on her. Not me. He nodded, finally understanding. You're extraordinary. You should be seen. Everyone should see you. And in that moment I realized how intoxicating clarity could feel. Not revenge. Not humiliation. Just truth. My sister's wedding had been a stage for illusion. I had arrived as the revelation. Later, when I re-entered the ballroom, she met my gaze. Her eyes narrowed, lips pressed tight. But I didn't flinch. I had nothing to prove. Nothing to defend. I walked to the center of the room, glanced at David, who finally saw me, not her, and let the silence speak. The whispers resumed, soft but unmistakable. The bride's perfect fantasy had no power over the night anymore. Not when the reality of who I was had walked in, uninvited, undeniable, and unshakable. And as I sipped my champagne, letting the warmth of it settle in my chest, I realized this. Some victories don't need fanfare. Some power doesn't need permission. Some truths just need to be seen. My sister's wedding had given me that. And nothing could take it away now. She was watching the empire of her own making crumble in the reflection of me. The next morning the aftermath began. David had left early, but not before sending a subtle message. We need to talk. Properly. I smiled faintly. He understood now, or at least he wanted to. My sister, on the other hand, had become a ghost in her own house. Her phone rang constantly, her texts went unanswered, and her friends whispered behind her back, curious and confused. All because the truth had walked into her wedding. Uninvited, undeniable, unstoppable. I poured myself coffee, sitting by the window, watching the city wake beneath the pale morning sun. And then it hit me. Power isn't loud. It doesn't need fireworks. It doesn't need approval. It's quiet, steady, and unstoppable. By mid-morning, the first ripple reached me. David's message. I've been thinking. I want to understand everything. Can we meet? I replied simply. Tomorrow evening. My office. The day moved slowly, deliberately, the way time always does when people are recovering from shock. I watched the news feeds, social media mentions, whispers of the gala, of the woman who had quietly stolen the spotlight, of the bride's perfect illusion crumbling. Everyone knew. Even if she didn't yet. At 5 p.m., David arrived at my office, hesitant, polite, trying to measure the woman who had captivated an entire room without even trying. You really are incredible, he said softly. I didn't know how much she hid from me. I nodded, letting him sit. You weren't meant to know. She wanted her fantasy and I wasn't part of it. He leaned back, conflicted, troubled but curious. I can't believe she didn't tell me. Not even a hint. Some people prefer shadows, I said. But shadows fade when the light arrives. His eyes met mine, steady and searching. I need to apologize, and also understand. I want to see the person you are, not the one she wanted to hide. I leaned back, sipping my coffee slowly, letting the words sink. You already do. Just, maybe not in the way she imagined. David chuckled nervously. So, she lied to me? Yes, I said calmly. And now you know the cost of underestimating her, or me. The conversation was not confrontation. It was recognition. Acknowledgement. The kind that comes only after the truth hits like a thunderclap. By the time he left, the skyline was tinged with gold. I watched him walk away, carrying a new understanding, not just of me but of the lies that had surrounded him. Later, when my sister tried to call, I didn't answer. Not because I wanted revenge, but because some people need silence to realize what they've lost. And tonight, as I poured another glass of wine, the city lights reflected in the window, I understood something I'd always known. You don't need permission to claim your power. You don't need validation to be seen. And sometimes the most satisfying victories are the ones you don't have to explain. Her wedding had ended. But my life, fully visible, fully mine, was only beginning. My sister didn't stay silent for long. By sunrise the next day she was at my office building. Not inside, not brave enough for that, but pacing outside the glass doors like a storm waiting to break. I saw her through the lobby windows, arms crossed, expression tight, eyes red from either crying or rage. Probably both. I stepped out, calm and steady, heels echoing against the marble. She spun around instantly. Olivia, she snapped. What the hell did you do? I lifted a brow. Walked into a room I own and existed. You ruined my wedding. Everyone's talking about you. About how powerful and impressive you looked. No one even cared about me. I let her words hang in the cool morning air. People cared. They just finally saw what you tried so hard to hide. Her jaw clenched. You think you're better than me now? No, I said softly. I've always been better. You just never accepted it. Her face crumpled before stiffening again. David is questioning everything. He said you made him realize how much I lie. I tilted my head. I didn't make him realize anything. The truth did. She stepped closer, voice trembling. You have to talk to him. Fix it. Tell him you didn't mean to outshine me. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was pathetic. Why would I fix lies I didn't tell? You owe me, she shouted. You're my sister. You're supposed to protect me, not erase you. I finished for her. That's what you did to me. The wind brushed past us, carrying the sting of reality she refused to swallow. She shook her head, desperate. You don't get it. He's mine, Olivia. He's supposed to be impressed with me. Not obsessed with understanding you. But there was. The truth she had tried so hard to bury wasn't about wealth, power, or reputation. It was insecurity. Pure, relentless insecurity. You can't blame me, I said, voice low, steady. For someone finally seeing who I really am. She blinked rapidly, like she couldn't believe I'd speak to her that honestly. I hate you, she whispered. I hate that you walk into a room and everyone looks at you. I hate that David asked about you after the gala. I hate that you make me feel small. I stepped closer, close enough for her to see the reflection of herself in my eyes. I don't make you feel small. You chose to feel small. Her breath hitched. For the first time I saw the crack behind her anger. The fear, the shame, the unraveling. She looked away, voice breaking. Just stay away. You've done enough. I didn't reply. She wasn't asking. She was retreating. As she walked off, heels clicking unevenly, I realized something. This wasn't about a wedding anymore. Or a fiancé. Or the whispers of guests. This was about a lifetime of shadows. And the moment I finally stepped out of them, and the more she tried to push me away, the more the truth pulled everything apart. 2 days passed. 2 days of silence from her. 2 days of messages from David. 2 days of the world shifting in ways she couldn't control anymore. By the third morning, my assistant stepped into my office, hesitant. Miss Harper, he's here. I didn't need her to say his name. David walked in seconds later, looking exhausted but determined. He carried the weight of truth in his shoulders. A man who finally realized the life he was marrying into had cracks deeper than vows could fix. Thank you for seeing me, he said softly. Your sister won't talk. He keeps telling me I'm being manipulated. But I'm not. I just want the truth. I gestured for him to sit. The city outside shimmered with the late afternoon sun, glass towers glittering like a reflection of everything I'd built. He exhaled shakily. I need to know who you are. Really? I didn't recite or resume. I didn't brag. I simply spoke. Calm. Clear. Unapologetic. I built Harper West from nothing. I kept my head down for years. I didn't need validation. I didn't need applause. And I certainly didn't need your approval or hers. He nodded slowly, absorbing every word. I didn't know. She told me you were unsuccessful, messy, unreliable. I smirked. That sounds like her. He looked up, guilt in his eyes. I'm sorry I believed it. I'm sorry I judged you without ever meeting you. It's not your fault, I said softly. She created an entire version of me just to feel superior. David stood then, beginning to pace, tension radiating off him. She lied about everything, didn't she? About your relationship. About your past. About why she didn't invite you to the wedding. Yes, I said. She's been competing with me her whole life. You just never saw it. He stopped pacing and looked at me, really looked. You're extraordinary. I breathed out slowly. There was again. Recognition. Not flattery. Not infatuation. Recognition. She feared this would happen, I said. She feared you'd finally see the difference between the two of us. His voice dropped to a whisper. I see it now. Silence settled between us. Electric, undeniable, dangerous. He moved closer. Too close. Close enough that I could feel the heat of his breath. I think I'm marrying the wrong sister, he said. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. But inside the air shifted, hot, sharp, inevitable. You're confused, I replied quietly. You're seeing truth for the first time and it feels like clarity. But it's not. Not yet. He swallowed hard. But you feel it too, don't you? I met his gaze. Feeling something isn't the same as acting on it. He stepped back, breath trembling. I don't know what to do, he admitted. I don't know if I can marry someone who built her entire life on lies. Especially when the truth looks like you. The words hit like a storm. Not because I wanted them, but because I knew exactly what they meant. The wedding wasn't broken. It was collapsing. And I was standing in the center of the fallout, calm and unshaken. You have decisions to make, I said. And none of them have anything to do with me. His eyes lingered on me, longing, conflicted, certain. Then he walked out, slowly, reluctantly, knowing the truth he'd discovered would cost him everything. And as the door closed, I felt it. The storm had arrived. And the final reckoning was only one step away. The morning of the wedding arrived like a tense hush over the city. Guests filled the cathedral with whispered anticipation, unaware that the illusion they were here to celebrate had already crumbled. I arrived late as I always did, calm, composed, untouchable. Her fiancé, David, lingered near the altar, eyes darting nervously, trying to reconcile the man-made world of ceremony with the reality he had discovered. The woman he thought was secondary, the hidden sister, had eclipsed every expectation. I didn't walk up the aisle. I didn't interrupt the vows. I simply entered the room and let the space adjust to my presence. The bride, my sister, froze. Her perfectly curated gown felt heavy, suffocating, as if every stitch whispered the truth she had tried to hide. The congregation shifted subtly, catching the tension in the air. Someone whispered, "Who is she?" I smiled faintly. The answer was obvious. David's eyes met mine. Fear, guilt, wonder. He'd seen the reality that my sister had tried to mask. And now he was forced to reconcile it in front of everyone. My sister's hands trembled. Her carefully rehearsed expression cracked. You can't," she stammered. I shook my head. I don't need to. The truth doesn't require my interference. It only needs to exist. He hesitated at the altar, shifting uncomfortably. The vows were empty. The smiles were forced. And in every corner the cracks were visible. I walked slowly toward the back pew, deliberately showing I was calm, composed, untouchable. The whispers grew. The side glances multiplied. The reality I carried in my presence had begun to eclipse her fantasy. David's hand twitched at his side. He wasn't ready to speak. He wasn't ready to act. But he could no longer deny the truth. The priest cleared his throat. My sister tried to speak her vows, but the words stumbled out like fragile glass, shattering on the floor of the cathedral. Her confidence was gone. Her control vanished. I stayed silent, watching, feeling the gravity of years of lies and shadows collapse in front of everyone. David finally exhaled, stepping back slightly. His hands dropped. His face was pale. He no longer looked at her. He looked at me. And in that moment my sister understood. She had lost not just her fiancé's admiration, but her narrative, her illusion, her dominance. She had spent years pretending, manipulating, hiding. And now all that effort had been undone by truth, patience, and quiet strength. I did not gloat. I did not celebrate. I simply allowed the space between us to speak the truth my words could not. And when the ceremony ended, when the applause echoed hollowly in the grand hall, I realized something essential. Power isn't loud. Power isn't demanded. Power is claimed. I had claimed mine years ago, quietly, deliberately, unapologetically. And tonight it was undeniable. Her wedding was over. Her illusion destroyed. Her truth revealed. But I remained untouchable. I stepped outside into the cool night air, letting the city lights shimmer over me. For the first time in my life, I didn't need permission. I didn't need approval. I only needed to be. And that was more than enough.